You don't know me. This is kind of weird. Never really done this before, but do you want to go out for coffee sometime?
Yeah.
So waited all freaking day, man. She had seen it. Left on red, and I
Yeah.
was like, okay, this is weird. Whatever. I'll
She's
let it
doing her
go.
research, man.
Yeah, I know that. Well, I actually followed her and like Facebook friended her or whatever the week before,
Okay.
so she was already kind of like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so I'm in the studio with my boys, and like 8 o'clock, her message comes in, and I'm like, oh guys, and so they kind of come around, and I read her message. She's like, I'm not really dating right now, but I guess I would be up for going to coffee, and so. Like a week later, we went to Cold Stone because she worked crazy hours, and 7:30 p.m. I'm like, we're not gonna get coffee at 7:30, so
Yeah.
got some ice cream and had a great time, and walked around River Park, and then I asked her,
Nice.
hey, why aren't you dating? And she's
Yeah.
like, well, I just feel like, I need to kind of focus in, Regen and where God has me right now. And so I need to kind of like, put things on, just kind of put that on the back burner for now. And I was like, you know what? That's fair. Okay.
Did that make you kind of feel like, oh, this is a wife type of woman right
Oh,
away?
bruh. Like she asked her, she was like, I was trying to scare you off. Like right off the
Yeah.
bat, she was like, because I've been through Regen, it gets gritty and raw, and you talk about the deepest stuff in your lives with, people that you don't know at first, and you become family, and so I know that experience. And so she was kind of sharing like, yeah, this is stuff I've been through. This is the stuff God's teaching me. This is what I'm going through. And it was
Yeah.
really raw and transparent. And I was like, dang, like I'm digging you, and I
Yeah.
didn't say that obviously, but she was trying to scare me away. And I'm like, the more she tried
Yeah.
to scare me away, I was like, wow, I really like this girl. And
Yeah.
so that her having that discipline and that
Yeah.
conviction that she didn't need me. She
Yes.
didn't need me. She wasn't
Yeah.
like, whatever. She was just like, and so she really kept it cool. And that's several things that attracted me to her. And so like I was like, uh, a week later, I was like, hey, so what service do because she attended the well. And I was like, what service do you usually go to at the well? I said, hey, I'll give you your space. I'll let you do your thing. But I was like, what if we kind of, found each other in the same service at some point or something, because I would, because our church, Fresno church, doesn't have necessarily like an evening service, and so I
Yeah.
would go to like the 5 or the 7 at the well, and then she was just straight with me, man. She's like, hey, I got to be honest, like I don't think I could do that, and I was like, dang, I felt bad. I'm like, look at you, Hunter, trying to be a snake and wiggle your way in here, but she kept to her guns, and I was like, man, so there was just several things before we even started dating. I was like this woman has character, like
Yeah.
she has substance, like
Nice.
she's beautiful and awesome and amazing, but like there's something deep within her. And so that really just kind of gave me a lot of strength, I think, to wait 4 months until she you know
Okay.
graduated from the program. And then we went on our first date the day after she graduated, so our second date, I guess, and the rest
Yeah.
is history, man.
That's cool. So she was going through that program at that
Yeah.
time. She was finishing. Tell us a little bit about that program. You kind of talked
Yeah.
a tad, but what is it? What does that word mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love it, and yeah, thanks for asking that. I couldn't. It's. I'm so encouraged to see how God uses that ministry at the well. And basically, what it is it's like the church. It's just a form. It's almost like another church service, but there is an emphasis on allowing God to search like the depths of your heart and working through. So it would be similar, I think, in our minds when we would think of like Alcoholics Anonymous or Celebrate Recovery. Like people might recognize those names more,
Yeah.
but I think the difference with Regeneration is that there's more of an emphasis on the gospel and how it transforms your life. It's not just about getting over an addiction. It's not
Yeah.
just about, getting through something. It is really about deepening your relationship with Jesus to the furthest degree, in the sense of like, hey, you're not holding anything back, you're not hiding anything, you're willing to face the darkest parts of your life, the trauma that you've been hiding from, the issues and the fears that you have, the resentments, and it just gets into all of that.
Yeah.
What are your sexual experiences, and how have those fed into your life, and what do those say? And then it offers you a community in which to grow.
Gotcha.
So you'll start when you go. Anyone can go at any time. I mean, right now it's a little different because it's on Zoom.
Yeah.
But you go and you get in, you have a first time, and they introduce you to the whole thing. And then after that, if you keep coming, you're placed in what's called groundwork,
Okay.
where you're in a group that's more or less the same every week, depending on who drops out and the new
Sure.
people that come in. And you stay in that for 6 to 12 weeks. And
Okay.
then they'll put you into what's called a closed group, where you actually start going through the curriculum with a set group of people that
Good.
most of whom you've been in groundwork the past few weeks, and then you'll go through the 12 steps from that point, and so you got book work and
Yeah.
assignments and stuff. It's very intense. It's a daily grind, and you go every week, and but it's so worth it. And then they have what's called commencements, which they don't call them graduations, but that's what they are, because they don't want you haven't graduated from anything. You're starting,
Yeah.
you're still on the journey. And so, I mean, just going to a commencement is just moving, man. I mean,
Yeah.
you hear these people get up and they're like talking about stuff, and you're like, holy cow, like, oh my gosh, like, I was addicted to porn, like I slept with a prostitute, like I have been mad at my dad for all these years, like I was abused, and they're going through this, and they're not just talking about horrible things, they're talking about God's transformation in the midst of those horrible things.
Yeah.
And that's what's moving, is that you go and you see the work of God on display in a way that, sadly, I think our normal church experience doesn't reflect. And I know that, maybe not every Sunday, it's maybe the proper context and right timing, and there's all these elements that maybe it's not best for someone to get up and, talk about their porn addiction or something, but to have an environment
Yeah.
where we're not encouraging sin, we're killing sin, but we're being honest about it, and we're glorifying God, and we're humbling ourselves, and we're saying, man, I am so broken, but God is so good, and here's what he's done in my life, and here's what he's doing. I mean, bro, it's powerful, and I can't encourage anyone more to be a part of that,
And is that how long is that whole process typically if it goes
Yeah.
smoothly?
Yeah, if it goes smoothly, it's around 9-10 months probably.
Okay.
I think I was in it about a year, depending on how long you're in the groundwork phase.
Okay. Yeah.
Ideal is 6 weeks in groundwork, but then they're trying to get a group of people together, and so
Okay.
they need time. And so I was in there for like good 10 weeks or so, which just felt long. But when you get in a closed group, you're like, yes, okay, these are my guys.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
How long ago? How long ago were you in the program, and about how old were you?
Yeah, I started July or August. I think August 2017. So I would have been 23.
Okay.
I think. No, 22. 22.
You
And
guys both kind of were going through that at a pretty close to the same time.
yeah, I think we overlapped a little bit. We probably overlapped a little bit, but it's also, I mean, it's huge, right? I mean, the Well campus is a pretty big church. The North Campus building is pretty big, and that thing is like full every week,
Yeah.
like at that ministry, and so you can get lost kind of if you want to, unless they put you on stage to talk about your dark secrets,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you feel, I know some of those programs are pretty anonymous or whatever, but do you feel
Yeah.
comfortable talking to us a little bit about how you got to that point of deciding to do that program?
Wow. Yeah, dude, I'd love to, honestly, man. For me, man, I mean, there's so much, and when you asked me to, that when you said, hey, I just want to interview you, kind of talk about your story and stuff, I was like, oh gosh, it's so, I can talk forever, and so I'm trying to figure out how to condense it a little bit, but
I would encourage you not to intense it. Take your
yeah,
time. You
okay,
can always come back, but yeah,
yeah,
no problem.
yeah, man, yeah. So I grew up in a Christian home,
Okay.
um, and my parents. What I love about my parents is that they are passionate for the truth,
Mhm.
and they focus on, man, it's just make your life about God, right? But growing up, I didn't realize how broken my family was.
Sure.
My parents both had pretty hard lives, been through some crazy stuff, and And just the way I was raised, I didn't realize how much brokenness and damage and kind of shrapnel there was in just our family dynamic. And that's part of it. And then I didn't realize how much shrapnel and damage was just in me growing up. You know, I always struggled with a lot of different things. And so depression was one of those things that kind of just come back to. And then I think I just have a really deep rooted pride in a lot of ways, and just a performance driven mentality. And so a lot of things that come together just make a mess. And so I really started pursuing Jesus when I was probably like 10 or 11 or something like that. And
Were you guys a part of a denomination when you were younger than 10? Was it a certain
yeah,
church?
yeah. So I grew up Calvary Chapel,
Oh, nice.
and it
Okay.
was really chill. It's really nice, and that's kind of all I knew for the
Yeah.
most part. And then just some hard situations went down, and my parents felt like, hey, I feel like, you know, I feel like we should move on, because, you know, if we stay in this situation, I don't think it's going to be healthy. And so we went on the search for a church for, you know, 2 3 years. We found one, and we found another. And so we went to some great churches, and one that we were at for like a year and a half eventually, you know, disbanded sadly, and a hard situation took place there. I mean, God's people are still a mess, you know, and so,
Yeah.
you know, hard things happen. And so this is an interesting turn, but we found this little Baptist church. At the time it was called Ambassador Baptist Church. And we didn't, you know, we mostly, you know, I guess Calvary Chapel is the denomination, but we didn't really know what Baptists were. And this was no Southern Baptist, man. This was like an interesting take on Baptist. It's called
Okay.
Independent Fundamental Baptist. All right. And so I don't know how many people actually know what that is, or what that's associated with, but man,
Yeah.
it was different. We went
Yeah.
there. It was different as heck. I mean, everyone's in suits, everybody's brother. Everybody, like it was just very formal, hymns only. Like, bro, I grew up like Skillet. I'm
Yeah.
like, Air One, the K Love, like that's me. Spirit West Coast, like
Yeah.
4 years, like I love music. It's so ingrained in me. And so coming to this church, there were so many things different, right? But I remember telling my dad, I mean, just me and my dad went like that first Sunday or so, and I was like, man, I think this is the church, because there was just something there, man. I think it was just a combination of things, but there was that passion for the word, and there was an energy and an excitement, um, and it's really interesting, because man, dude, there's just so much, because that started a journey
Yeah.
with my family that was really hard, but I think God used it to kind of bring some things out and expose some things in us and in just our family, and just help us grow through the years. And so that church was starting to transition, because I think there were a lot of unhealthy things in it, and I think there was honestly a lot of unhealthy things in the denomination that it was associated with. I
Okay.
don't really want to use the word legalism,
Yeah.
because I think Baptists kind of get a bad rap, or like, oh, they're legalists. I think more like performance driven, self-focused Christianity is more accurate term. And so with that just came a lot of baggage, a lot of confusion. I'm a 15-year-old trying to serve God and not
Oh, yeah.
understanding, like, why is it wrong to listen to Casting Crowns? Like, like that stuff like that, bro,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hey, the King James version only, or,
Okay.
whatever, you're a heretic, or, not that extreme, but there are extremes still within that denomination. And so the pastor at the time, my pastor, Josh Ermler, really was just led by the Holy Spirit, and just started taking that church on a really slow transition to try to find a healthy place, to become more gospel focused, to become
Okay.
more focused on the gospel, and what does it mean to be a church, and what does it mean to love Jesus, and be a Christian. And so I kind of entered in as that was happening, and I think I got to be a part of that change,
Yeah.
and so, it's been 10 years, 11 years now, and that church is now called Fresno Church.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
it's the same church, but not really, because it's God has just changed so much and transitioned so much. And so there was just a lot to that time period in my life. I'm on staff there. I've been on staff there for 6 years now, and so there's so much in that journey where God was moving things and making me question things and having to work through things as a family and in my own life. And so I promise I'm trying to connect this now to Regen and stuff. So
Good.
all of that, and just this idea of, man, my Christian journey is about how well I can do, who I can become, what God's going to do through me. And that, I mean, that wasn't, I think that was already in me, but I think that's started to become exposed a little, in the past few years. And as I finished high school, I went off to this mission society, kind of like almost like a camp thing, like a discipleship school called Ellerslie Mission Society in Colorado. And it's awesome organization, awesome just a time and season of my life, a really hard, pressing, challenging season. And I think also, man, I took some unhealthy things there too, of that same mentality of like, man, how well can I do, of performance driven, and a lot of the I'm trying to think of the word, the crux of what they kind of push is like, man, we need to get back to real Christianity. And where are these men and women of God that were so mighty and did awesome things and did amazing things? Like, where is that Christianity? And so feeling that pressure of like, hey, I need to be the next, Hudson Taylor. I need to be the next, Billy Graham. I need to be awesome. I need to make sure I'm good. I need to be, lead people, and all of that thinking. Even though I would kind of fight it, it was just there. And so I met a girl there. We're getting there. Good. I met a girl there, and really tried to, do everything right. Tried to think, man, we're going to be spiritual. We're going to seek God. We're going to be awesome. We're going to be an example. We're going to lead. And just maybe not telling myself that, but that's the dialogue that pride had in my mind. And so we ended up, trying to wait for God, trying to do everything